Hello everyone, and welcome to Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting series on what if Naruto fall in love with Mithos Yggdrasill. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Many years ago, it is revealed that Mithos Yggdrasill, a half-elf, along with his sister, Martel Yggdrasill, fellow half-elf, Yuan Ka-Fi, and human, Kratos Orion, managed to stop the war by forging pacts with the summoned spirits. After the war ended, the group was betrayed by an unnamed human, and Martel was somehow killed in the process. Mithos became unstable, and he told Origin, ruler of the summoned spirits, to make him a sword capable of manipulating creation and time itself. Origin trusted Mithos and created the eternal sword, which Mithos used to separate the world in two, thus becoming Silverant and Tethala, named after the two former countries. But Mithos broke his vow, sealing the organ within Kratos Orion himself. This caused the pact to only be broken if Kratos himself died. Later on, Mithos went on to create his organization Cruxus, an organization that would govern the worlds like gods, on Daris Harlan to find a way to revive Martel, whose soul was affixed to the Great Seed through a Cruxus crystal. Mithos proceeded to make himself, Kratos, Yuan, and figuratively Martel the leaders of Cruxus, known as the Four Seraphim. They used the power of Cruxus crystals to grant them possible immortality, and for 4,000 years, Cruxus used the journey of regeneration to assure that neither world would exhaust the mana left by the Great Seed. The Chosen One soon became a ritualistic pawn in the scheme, as their mana signatures are closely related to Martel's. Chosens are the result of marriages arranged to produce host bodies for Martel's soul. During the war, the companions went through many great hardships due to discrimination against half-elves, fueled by both humans and elves. Because of this discrimination, Mithos and Martel were blamed for an unnamed misfortune and expelled from their home of Heimdall. They heard of Silverant's approaching invasion of Tethala and tried to stop it, only to be ignored because of their race. After the fall of Tethala's capital, Mithos was joined by Kratos, who trained him as a swordsman and a mage. Yuan would complete their party later on. Mithos would eventually go on to become the great hero of legend by single-handedly making pacts with each of the summoned spirits, although he had Kratos make the pact with the king of summoned spirits, Origin, in his place. Mithos then had Origin create the near-omnipotent eternal sword, which he used to split the world in two to create the parallel worlds of Tethala and Silverant, in order to prevent more magitechnology from being created. The ancient Harlan War was caused by magitechnology, which consumes vast amounts of mana. By splitting the world in two halves and having them vie for the small amount of remaining mana, Mithos effectively stopped the creation of magitechnology and prevented a second cataclysmic global war. Part of the pact with Origin was a promise that he would restore the Great Seed to the world so that it could grow again. This would restore mana to the land. Instead, Mithos took it to Daris Harlan in order to revive and protect his dead sister, thereby breaking his pact with the summoned spirits. Mithos had strong ideals about peace and unity, but his sister's death deepened his hatred for humanity and made him lose track of whether the world or her life was more important to him. He took her final words to heart. Her wish was for a world without discrimination, which he interpreted as a wish to end the persecution of half-elves. What Martel truly wanted was an end to discrimination between all the different races, as stated by Yuan. Mithos's ideals then became twisted. He came to the conclusion that the only way for discrimination to end was, in his own words, by using the X-spheres to eliminate the different bloods that flow within elves and humans. Everyone will become the same lifeless beings. Discrimination will vanish. That is the grand age I strive for. People fear and hate what is not normal. They are scared of those that are different. Then the solution is for everyone to become the same. To this end, he began mutating half-elves, using a superior form of X-sphere known as Cruxus crystals. These Cruxus crystals turned their subjects into near-immortal, angel-like entities at the cost of the things that made them human. These angels are often referred to as lifeless beings. Even if the body of an angel was destroyed, the X-sphere would also need to be destroyed as well for them to truly die. It was possible to live on in a Cruxus crystal even after the body of its host had been destroyed. Mithos also founded the Church of Martel and thereafter became the absolute ruler of the two worlds. In order to resurrect Martel, Mithos would need to find a subject whose mana signature was nearly identical to Martel's. Acting as a supreme lord of the angels, he manipulated the bloodlines of the citizens of the two worlds for over 4,000 years in order to create this vessel. Mithos declared Martel a goddess and manipulated history to remember her as a hero. Mithos thought he and his group couldn't be beaten, but he was proven wrong. A group opposed him, with the one delivering the final blow to him. A human named Lloyd. He wanted to scream with incoherent rage, hatred, despair, self-loathing at how he lost to a lower being and his plan for peace ruined instead of turning to dust. He woke up from being stabbed through the heart to see himself in a void and to see Kratos and the others and even Richter with him, even his sister herself, looking at him with disappointment and a bit of sadness that cut into his hollow being more than Lloyd's blades themselves, and turned around, curling his arms around his legs, resting his chin on his knees, staring into the vast void. Now in oblivion. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Richter laughed loudly at the arrogant leader of Cruxus, reduced to a pitiful state, getting a silent glare from Kratos and Martel. Human, shut up and go away. I have neither the time nor want to reduce your soul to ashes. Mithos said, dully, not registering Richter's presence. And what are you gonna do about it? False ruler fire spells at me. We're dead, all of us, which means you cannot do jack shit. The hot-headed and cold-hearted man snarled, charging at Mithos, who stood up, eyes shadowed, and faced him before opening his eyes that were glowing, making Richter crash down in a medium-sized crater. Do not test my patience, you insolent little waste of fucking space. You were just like that naive little bastard Lloyd. I could have brought my sister back to life, but you and those nosy humans ruined everything. Martel and the others backed up, feeling Mithos's anger and rage flowing from him. That is enough, Angel Gaki. Mithos felt the aura of death and foreboding and chied, turning around to face the specter known as the Shinigami, aka Death God. So you pulled even my soul into your realm, Death God? Mithos replied, not even registering the scent of death. Nothing mattered to him anymore. His sister hated him. He got his friends killed and his dream was all if not shattered beyond repair. Shinigami scowled at the dull-voiced half-elf angel. Your actions have nearly brought Armageddon upon the human race. That is too much paperwork to be doing even for me. Mithos merely snorted uncaringly, getting a tick mark from the Death God. Not my problem. I have nothing to live for, so why should I care for the trials of others? Martel sighed sadly, appearing next to her brother, rubbing his arms only to frown deeper, feeling him stiffen up. I don't hate you, Mithos. I am just a bit disappointed at the path you took. Mithos just turned his head the other way to hide his tense eyes. It would be so tempting to just send all of you to the purgatory to suffer for all your crimes. Shinigami sneered, only to freeze upon feeling the sub-zero cold eyes of Yggdrasill and Kratos on him. Know this, Death God, you may be a god, but even a god will be toppled by lesser beings. Kratos spoke truthfully, yet with fierce protective anger, sliding to the right of Martel, with Mithos taking the left, with Yuan by his side and Richter by Kratos' side. The Death God looked into Mithos' eyes and saw determination that was grim at best, along with cold hard anger at the fact he dared to threaten his sister after getting to see her again. This made him let out a laugh, a joyful, boisterous laugh at that. That right there is what is needed in the new world, ha 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 ha, that determination and fearless demeanor that allowed you to wind the Harlan War so many eons ago, Mithos the hero. Yes, you are just what the Forsaken child needs to reach her potential. His voice grew somber and even saddened. For a Death God to show sadness for someone was baffling to even Kratos. Forsaken child, who is that? Mithos asked curiously, lowering his eternal sword, but somehow he got the feeling he was not going to like what he was going to hear. And with that, the Shinigami told them of how the world changed after their time had passed, from massive wars, the beginnings of chakra. They got interested in Kaguya, the first user of chakra, specifically since he was a god in his own right back in his world. However, they got alarmed, especially as he continued on to Kaguya's corruption after the birth of Hamura and Hagoromo, to the splitting of the Jubi into the 9 beings known as Biju. Then the cycle of hatred and death between the Senju birthed by Ashura Otsutsuki and the Uchiha birthed by Indra Otsutsuki. Then he explained the events of the clan wars, mainly Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, and then there was the formation of the hidden villages, followed by something that set Mithos and Kratos himself off, being the capture and enslavement of the Biju themselves. This is why I freaking hate most humans. They kill, enslave and capture those they deem not their own. Even me and my sister were scorned by our own race because we're of both worlds, damn them. His fist caused a crater under him from raw anger. Kratos himself had red eyes glowing with rage for the first time. Your sister Cammy is either very stupid and naive or arrogant, thinking her creations are not flawed. His enraged low tone dripped like acid while the Shinigami smiled grimly instead of reacting with anger. If this were any other circumstance I'd disagree with you, but Oni-san has always been the most naive out of me. And Tozi, she wants the Forsaken Child to live a life of hardship and despair, to become the Child of Prophecy, her self-made title, which is becoming a pawn under her and even-minded gods and goddesses, to never seek vengeance, only compromise with the aggressors. So yes, I agree with your assumption of Kami. There are many men who have tried to seek immortality to avoid my grasp, and I do not like souls escaping me. His eyes glowed dangerously and angrily, getting nods, understanding death was a natural part of human life, so when certain souls try to escape his domain it would make even a god pissed off. He continued to show them the events happening, including the fall of Uzushizuogakure no Sato village hidden in the whirlpools, then the finality of the Kyuubi attack, and then the life of one Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. How can they do this? She is just 5 years old. Mithos roared angrily, his forgotten energy coming back faster than a bullet, watching with the others at the abuse and near close calls to Naruko's virtue, and even worse, the girl couldn't retaliate back physically, only having to resort to pranks to even get a form of revenge on everyone who shunned, beat and abused her. She will be turned into breeding stock for the heir of the Uchiha by the use of Fuinjutsu suppression seals on her body. By the time the Chunin exams are over, the seals would have twisted her mind to accept the abuse, so I am giving you this window of opportunity to train the Forsaken Child to be strong enough where even Kami, me and Tozi won't be able to stand up against her. Mithos's eyes widened, as did Martel, before they softened, hearing Kratos's determined voice speak up. I accept, Shinigami-sama, we all do. Will not let an innocent child face a fate such as being turned into a baby maker for some spoiled lil monster of a kid. He narrowed his red eyes at the others, daring them to refuse, causing all of them to break out in sweats, thinking, Kratos is scary. Even Mithos thought of that until Mithos saw the visage of Sasuke Uchiha, the Uchiha heir, watching with a smirk set Mithos off. That's it. With that he dived into the well with a flash of light, followed by the others including Richter, but the death god held Martel back a bit. The poor girl needs a mother figure in her life. Be that person, since her mother Kushina Uzumaki thought of the village first instead of her own flesh and blood. He requested grimly, earning a nod from the light green-haired woman who smiled. You can count on me, Shinigami-sama. Naru-chan won't be alone, not if I have anything to say about it. With that, the seraphim of selfless sacrifice jumped through into the world of shinobi, knowing that she would change the fate of Naruko Uzumaki Namikaze, leaving a smirking Shinigami laughing at the image of his sister's face when realizes there will be no child of prophecy to replace that Baka Minato Namikaze, nor will Naruko be like that idiotic naive Kushina who followed her husband's ideals like gospel. No, he would make the girl his and Tozi's personal champion, just despite that naive, arrogant, bitchy sister of theirs, and give the Forsaken Child the tools and power needed to control her own fate and destiny. Konohagakure no Sato, stand still demon, a blonde haired girls with long twin pigtails rolled away from a punch, blocking a strike from a sake jug, gritting her teeth, I pain feeling it smash against her skin, and growled lowly, feeling the seal on her neck spark, telling her mind to stop attacking her betters, and fought it with a snarl of a wild animal, jumping up, striking with a clawed swipe, taking a bit of a chunk out of the villager's face and eyes, making him drop the broken weapon to scream in pain, clutching his face. The moonlight shined in the alley, showing a short girl standing at 4 feet 1, wearing a black pair of cargo shorts, black sandals and a red shirt with a black spiral symbol on the back and front. Her slightly pudgy cute cheeks had 3 wide whisker marks bared on each side. Her lips were a bit cute pink and had the cutest shade of ocean blue eyes that were narrowed with feral anger and fear, and most of all shifty, like a cornered wild animal and true to the situation. That's when they're at the most dangerous, with no way out. Naruko Uzumaki, secretly Namikaze, was fighting her screams of pain due to her fighting the seal's defense and influencing words. She somehow knew the seal had to be made by that super perverted bastard she saw once after spying on the Hokage, Jiraiya of the Sannin. She was so pissed she literally snapped with anger, enduring so many years of abuse. A mob or two soon started coming at her from everywhere, even a few Chunin and Junin joined in on getting a pound of flesh from her. The seal restricted her or a few seconds, but when she heard of how they were gonna break the demon bitch in, that was the last straw. She clawed, bit, scratched, kicked, punched, throat punched and ripped any that came at her. She didn't know how long she's been fighting, but her clothes were dripping with blood from bother her wounds and blood spraying on her. Her hair was beginning to bleed to a blood red, like Rias Gremory from DxD. She was tired, but something in her pushed her to fight and kill till she was safe. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. A Uchiha Genin Kunoichi jumped up, shouted loudly, spitting a decent-sized fireball at her with speed to it. Naruto, with the skill of an acrobat, backflipped, landing against the wall, using the sudden impact to push up, sailing over it, watching it impact with a mild explosion. Gotcha, demon. The Kunoichi crowed, appearing above with a shunshin, aiming to stab Naruto in the back of the neck, only to choke when she found small, slim-toned legs wrapped around her neck and looked into a cold, feral, ocean blue-slitted eyes of the demon whore. No, I got you, bitch. Snap. Naruto twisted her legs, snapping the Kunoichi's neck, using the corpse as a cushion, impacting with the ground, rolling out of the way from a wave of shuriken and kunai thrown at her. Ducking behind another alleyway, Naruto panted softly, doing well to keep her breath silent and soft, backing away into the darkness. Come out, little demon bitch, wherever you are, we just want to have fun. She scowled, hearing the mocking words from some of the Junin in the mob, clenching the kunai in her hand tightly, gnashing her teeth till her gums began to bleed. Her rage was close to exploding like a lit Bakuha Fuin, explosive seal, and would have charged them all if not for a hand gripping her wrist. Startled, Naruto would have spun around to cut her surprise enemy down, but stopped upon coming into eye contact with a light green-eyed woman. The gentle warmth and sorrow coming from her actually caused her rage to die down, along with the kunai to drop from her hands. Her eyes pricked with tears and she struggled to not cry. Shush, it's all right, little one, you're safe, mommy isn't going to let anyone hurt you. The woman's wispy form solidified, hugging the now sobbing Naruto into her chest, hugging the stranger woman tightly as if she were her real mother. Sabo Okawa Sanai www, sob this nightmare to be over, I want to be able to not have this pain anymore. Her pain was so visible, Mithos himself saw so much of himself and his friends in this one than he cared to admit. Don't worry, little one, no one, not even that old fossil, will take you away from me and your new family. Naruto looked up, hearing that word, family, and looked at the people behind her and blinked, seeing Mithos, Kratos, Yuan and Richter. Hiya, kid. Richter smirked something. Naruto raised an eyebrow at how naturally confident it sounded and spoke, managing to sound deadpan. Anyo, have you been taking some drugs or something to make your voice sound like thunderclaps? Her innocent question made Richter face fall, much to Mithos and Yuan's snickering, while Kratos smiled with a chuckle. Richter grumbled, rolling his eyes, but smiled at the child who asked a curious question. Nah, I'm just confident, kid. Naruto's eye ticked being called kid. It reminded her of that old bitchy hag from the orphanage that perverted old Hokage put her in, and her eyes darkened in hate and anger, something Mithos picked up on. I feel like I'm looking at a mirror. Naruto and his eyes locked with one another before her eyes suddenly changed to the same color as his. Even her hair began to lengthen to the same length as Mithos in color, an alluring blonde yellow, surprising everyone as her malnutritioned body began to fill out to the appropriate weight for a 6-year-old till she looked just like a female clone of Mithos. Naruto's eyes widened a bit before calming down. Suddenly she spoke in a soothing, ethereal and power female voice. Father? Mithos's cheeks reddened at being called father, making Richter and Yuan snigger till Kratos smacked them upside the head, earning 2 yelps. Martel giggled at her brother's face. Go on to your father, little one. Mithos looked at his sister in shock, but watched Naruto released from her embrace and stumbled toward him, a bit, arms stretched out with eyes pleading for him to accept her. His void heart was hurting so badly, seeing how much psychological and emotional damage such an innocent child has been done on her. PP Papa. Mithos felt a tear stream from his eye and kneeled before Naruto and hugged her into his chest, his wings curling around them, her sniffles dying down as a soft golden rainbow glow covered them both. Kratos smiled, thinking, I guess they are alike. The circumstances are uncanny. I swear to protect you, my charge. The swordsman mage swore to himself. He looked to Yuan and Richter, who nodded, both faces showing how serious they were. It's all right, my daughter, you won't have to worry about being so helpless again. Not like your sperm donors are any different from this village. Mithos muttered, but Naruto heard him and narrowed her eyes, looking exactly like Mithos when he's pissed off. Who exactly were these 2 pieces of scum, Papa? Martel whistled innocently, looking to the side along with Yuan, Richter and Kratos, leaving a deadpanned Mithos to think. Leave me to the jaws of a wolf, why don't you? Sighing, Mithos turned to Naruto calmly. Do you really wish to know why you are hated unjustly? Naruto nodded slowly, wanting to know who condemned her to such a fate. At her nod, Mithos explained everything, even the history of the Uzumaki clan. Naruko was silent till her mouth twisted into a growl and a snarl and suddenly sprouted wings, just like Mithos, who gaped only to chill at the deadly enraged cold dark hateful voice of his daughter. Those sons of bitches condemned me to a life of looking over my shoulder constantly in my own birthplace, all because some wrinkled old white-haired bitch and her ass-kissers could have some fucking entertainment at my fucking expense. Goddamn you Kushina Uzumaki, and damn you and your bastard husband Minato Namikaze to fucking hell. I renounce your fucking place as my blood parents on my name as Naruko Mithos Yggdrasill. Her enraged roar echoed everywhere, even in the Shinigami and Kami's realm, causing all to gain wide eyes, well except for a grinning Shinigami dancing around raising flags with the sign, "Go Naruko Mithos Yggdrasill," and knew the Yondaime and his wife would be pissed if they heard their former daughter say that. "I want to be trained. Since I don't want to use chakra, I can use mana as a substitute for chakra, meaning I can rewire the shinobi techniques I am expected to use," Naruko said venomously, getting a smirk from Richter. "I hope you're ready for hell, kiddo. Our training isn't for the weak-willed." Naruko looked at Richter and sneered, proclaiming strongly, "Throw everything you got at me, Richter-sensei." "Hey, I found the demon bitch," a Junin yelled, spotting Naruko and the others in the alleyway, gathering the others' attention. But Naruko noticed a shining red light from her chest and looked down only to see a cruxus just like Papa's attached to her chest flash redder. "Mithos. She has a red cruxus on her chest," Martel shouted in shock, stunning her brother, but then they heard a female demonic voice. "No one harms Naruko-sama. Not I have anything to say about it," the voice roared from the crystal before a bolt of red lightning zipped from it, materializing into a fair-skinned scarlet-red long-haired woman with crimson-slitted eyes, sleeveless armor with pauldron and fingerless metal, black skirt, red stockings and black boots. "It's the Kyugrk," a Hyuga Junin shouted, recognizing the chakra of the Nine Tails, until the woman removed the top half of his head with a spiked mace. Now dressed in a spiky obsidian black armor with pupilless red eyes, steam breathed through her mouth. "Rengoku number Yoroi, purgatory armor." "Kei Kumo Nanda. What the hell is that?" one of the Chunin shouted fearfully. "My name is Urza Scarlet, but you can remember me as the beast that was sealed in that bitch Kushina," Urza declared, brandishing the spiked mace threateningly with a cold smile, causing clicks in the minds of the mobs except for Naruko and her companions, who had amused looks. "Kill the demon bitch and her whore container," and Inazaka-jun ranted unintelligibly, not seeing Kratos muttering in Naruko's ear as her eyes widened wider and wider at his instructions and held her hand out that sparked with electricity. "Now call it out, Naruko-sama," Kratos whispered in her ear firmly. With cold sub-zero eyes, Naruko called out, causing thundering above. Lightning. Several bolts of lightning roared from above, striking the Inazaka Junin, his ninkin along with one of the mobs, turning them into slowly screaming charred corpses till she had to cancel the spell, dropping to one knee with the slightest bit of exhaustion. Urza glanced at her master, container, with a quirked eyebrow and a thankful smile. "Master sure is interesting, that's for sure." With that food for thought, she turned back to the shaking shinobi and civilian, but she did not like that look of overconfidence and arrogance and blurred through their ranks, using one hand to smash their heads and bodies to bloody pulps, with Naruko using her chance to use several casts of lightning to burn the stragglers, which the Biju Queen was thankful for. "Naruko, take it easy, do not strain yourself. Your mana reserves may be very large for your age, but you must be patient when using mana until your reserves can handle the constant casts," Kratos reprimanded softly, earning a tired nod before she was scooped up by Martel and allowed herself to sleep in relaxation. "Aura." Urza crushed the last instigator of the mob into a bloody mess and stretched with a sigh, dismissing the mace and her armor, leaving her in her regular armor, chestplate, gauntlets, skirt, stockings and boots. "Am I to take a guess you wish to train Naruko in swordsmanship, Urza? We could use a trainer from a shinobi's aspect," Martel asked curiously. Urza or Kyubi looked at Martel, then Naruko softly. "The kit has been through so much." Her hand waved over her form and Naruko's body instantly turned into a male version of Mithos, getting surprised looks from the group. "Don't worry, I knocked out the pesky arrogant bastard child Sasuke Uchiha and removed his memory of ever witnessing this event, and now Naruko won't be as hounded by those who seek to turn her into breeding stock. I know every style of Kenjutsu from this shinobi world, and from what I know of Shinigami-sama, he'll bring in a surprise person to train master. Now let us leave. Naruko has a bright future ahead of her." With a snap of her fingers, Urza's aura wrapped around all of them in a curtain of red before they vanished like phantoms, leaving the gory massacre for the weary Jiraiya, the Sannin and Sandaime to see. Never to know their plan was doomed to fail in the beginning. Thus Naruto Mithos Yggdrasill was born from the ashes of the Uzumaki and Namikaze legacies. Time skip 6 years later. Chunin exam finals. Naruto Uzumaki, you have 1 minute to show up or be disqualified. Genma shouted, his voice echoing in the stadium full of people and ninja, even daimyos were present. Hey! The dobi was all talk, his win was a fluke, I tell ya. A brown-haired boy snorted with the markings of an Inazaka, getting nods from a black-haired woman voicing that thought in her head, resolving to rub it in Kakashi's face that his student was lucky. Naruto Uzumaki. Oh, shut up already, you woke me up from my nap with your loud bitching, idiot. A female voice echoed from above, causing everyone to instantly rush and look up only for their jaws to drop. A blonde girl with long celestial blonde-colored hair reaching to the back of her knees with a silky exterior enough to make Kurenai jealous. One part of her hair covered one of her light green eyes that held a silent regalness to them and a command of authority, and realized she wore the same jumpsuit as the orange-wearing shinobi Naruto Uzumaki as she floated down to ground level. You are not Naruto Uzumaki, civilian. Genma yelled, narrowing his eye only to get a bored glance before he gasped, falling to his knees as she ignored his presence, but the feeling of gravity on his body made him drop to a kneel, kneeling much to everyone's shock, jealousy, awe, disbelief and intrigue. Be warned, I will let your disrespect go ignored this time, Junin. Genma, do not think I will give a second chance, insect, are we clear? The girl with the womanly assets and curvy body said coldly and imperiously, getting a fearful gulp and nod. Why, yes, understood. As for Naruto Uzumaki, well, her face switched to Naruto's before slowly it morphed into her own features, making their jaws drop again. That's right, the so-called idiot you call Naruto Uzumaki was nothing but an false identity I put together. Every single mannerism was absolutely false, and none of you were the wiser. You think I would have affections for such a frail, shallow piece of shit like Haruno of all people? Naruto looked to the stands at her male disguises teammate with apathy and dismissal, causing the girl to flinch back with a hurt face. Sasuke Uchiha had a dark glare, realizing who she was, and was enraged at this bitch's gall for defying him. You? I remember you, he shouted, getting a dismissive glance from Naruto. My name isn't Naruto Uzumaki, the so-called demon whore this village's simpleton residents call me fondly Uchiha Sasuke. I don't know you, and I don't even want to, so spare me your arrogant, overconfident drivel, otherwise I don't guarantee your chances of leaving this stadium alive. Her cold, amused, heavenly voice sent chills down everyone's spines. Ha ha ha, you aren't stupid enough to harm me, bitch. Why don't you just get on your knees and beg for my forgiveness, and maybe I'll talk you like you were supposed to be after I graduated. His words caused Naruto's cold eyes to shadow slightly, giving her a very dark, demented visage, and then she began glowing with a red-tinged golden transparent aura. Twitching her finger, the left side of the ground in the arena suddenly uplifted violently, making many jump in shock and looked at Naruto. My name is Naruto Mithos Yggdrasill. Remember it, trash, and watch as I show you a power you will never reach in an eternity. Wallow in despair. Her deadly, emotionless voice echoed before the aura exploded outward and her body began to change. Not falling. Mudvayne, Naruto's aura began growing and growing till the stadium had to hold their hands up to keep from being blown away by the fierce power-generated wings and blinding light. Debris and earth began floating, her eyes glowing with a pupilless light green. Always, known in, all my time, a little left of center now. Reflect as I realize that all I need is to find the middle pillar path to sit like the sun by a star in the sky and just be. Sinners, casting stones at me. Hinata and several other Hyugas had to shut off their Byakugan to avoid being eternally blinded by the massive power and light practically visible and whipping everywhere. I stand, not crawling, not falling down. I bleed the demons that drag me down. I stand, for nothing, not crawling, the center, not falling down, of calms within the eye. I'll bleed, for no one, the demons, but myself, that pull me down, for me and no one else. How is she generating this much power? That's not even chakra from what I'm sensing. Karui. Omoi shouted over the roaring winds at his teammates Karui and Samui, who were unable to respond due to the oppressive feeling the aura brought. What the hell, how is she doing this? Anko shouted, blocking the winds with her arms crossed, never feeling such power even from her former sensei and the third. Goodbye, sunshine, I've put it out again. Sad I'm over, personalities, conflicting, I don't need you, or anyone, but me, I'll just be, living my own life. I feel my glowing center grow, infecting. I feel alive, shovel dirt over lime, plant it in myself to sit like a seed under covers of earth and just be. Sinners, pointing fingers at me, the cages and daimyos themselves and their bodyguards were stunned if not gaping as they tried to block the fierce winds whipping at them. Naruto, what have you been hiding? You are not even a full-grown woman and your power is practically causing the stadium to crack. Hiruzen Sarutobi grunted, trying to stay still in his seat. I stand, for nothing, not crawling, by myself, not falling down. I bleed, for no one, the demons, but myself, that drag me down. I stand, for nothing, not crawling, the center, not falling down, of calms within the eye. I'll bleed, for no one, the demons, but myself, that pull me down, for me and no one else. Come play kill, refuse my body, refuse my shadow, stand cold will. Refuse to lead this, refuse to follow bitter pills. Refuse to feed this, refuse to swallow, I'm fueled godless. Come play, kill, just be. Urza Scarlet smirked, standing beside a black-haired girl with dark amber-colored eyes looking upon Naruto with intrigue. She stood at 5'5" with a DD cup bust held back by a white bra garment. She wore black pants, black shoes with light blue accents from the heel to toe. Over her top she wore a long-sleeved tight black shirt under a sleeveless purple kimono top with purple sleeves reaching up her forearms with dark blue ribbons around the wrist and finger areas hiding her fingerless gloves from view. Tied around her abdomen area is a pink sash ending up in a tight knot towards the back with 2 ribbons hanging near the ground and a red cord tied around in the front. Interesting. This requires further observation. Urza merely smirked wider, hearing Sheena's words about master, and looked back with an expression of pride, glee and lust aimed at her former container. I stand, for nothing, not crawling, by myself, not falling down. I bleed, for no one, the demons, but myself, that drag me down. I stand, for nothing, not crawling, the center, not falling down, of calms within the eye. I'll bleed, for no one, the demons, but myself, that drag me down, for me and no one else. With a flick of her arms, Naruto's aura died down till it was completely gone, leaving her true appearance in full view. Oh my God. Sheena muttered beside a shit-eating, grinning Urza, having a nosebleed, bearing a blush from the normally calm, hot-tempered card user. WWHAAA. Kiba gaped, mouth opening and closing silently, staring with glassy eyes at the goddess before them. Such beauty is a sin, Neji said in a nasally voice, pinching his own nose to stop a nosebleed, with Tenten suffering the fate instead. Everyone was shocked at her heavenly appearance, yet that cold, amused glint still was visible in her eyes. TCH still doesn't prove anything. Your fancy light show doesn't scare me, Uzumaki. Sasuke taunted, thinking Naruto would react blindly at being called what he assumed to be a hated name, but tensed when her light green eyes narrowed into slits. Fee. Naruto's small smirk widened into a fanged grin, hair spiking up as electricity arced all over her body. Tales of Symphonia Ost, Mithos. I suggest you vacate the arena, Junin Genma. A pure cream white sheath wider than a katana appeared in her hand, bearing a sword with a cream-colored hilt, a golden guard that pointed sideways like a branch with a red crimson ruby in the center. Why yeah, I'll do that. Genma shunshined quickly, not wanting to get caught in the crossfire, leaving the two combatants. Do you even know how to use a weapon like that, Uzumaki? Sasuke said smugly, only to frown in distaste at her emotionless reaction, and reaching behind him, unsheathing slowly a katana bearing the Uchiha symbol on the guard, holding it in a reverse grip. Narrowing his eyes, sliding his foot to the left, Naruto following the same to the right, circling around each other while she had her sword at her hip like a samurai, Bukzakuri, while her sheath had what looked like a rifle mechanism with a magazine loaded and a trigger under the hilt. Smirking, Naruto slowly unsheathed the blade at her hip, causing purple-blue arcs of energy to crackle, showing a European-style sword with red blunt edges near the guard, causing the light to glint off it, showing how sharp it was. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's dance! Naruto shouted, dropping into a two-handed kendo stance, and Sasuke shifting with his katana in front and open palm back. Naruto smirked tauntingly, walking around him, having a very lax stance compared to Sasuke's tense as a close to snapping wire one. Now don't be shy. Sasuke growled to himself at her taunt and flickered out of existence, appearing behind Naruto, aiming to slash her across the back, only to flip his blade to the flat side to block a back kick that impacted against his katana with a bang like a blast from a shotgun, sending him flying back into the wall with a crash. Don't tell me that's all you got, little Sook. His Sharingan flashed into existence, showing both were two tomos, and darted at the celestial blonde-haired girl with fast battering strikes. Kicks, stabs and palm strikes, trying to see an open, but she only grinned wider, blocking his katana with the barest of effort. Enraging the Konoha golden boy, he charged chakra to his muscles, coming in faster with strikes, doing everything he could to try and make her counterattack so he could use his interceptor fist's special technique. He, is that all? She taunted with a grin, only to feel his blade around her throat and looked back to see him behind her and the one in front fade away, and merely sneered with a smirk. Ooh, scary. He aimed to chop her in the back of the neck, only for Naruto to vanish in a small plume of fire, causing Sasuke to jump back, looking around, seeing no sign of her, not seeing someone above. Oh, am I not good enough to eat, little Sook? She pouted mockingly, shifting her body, causing the bodysuit to accent her bust and ass a lot, causing the smallest trickle of blood to drip from the emo Uchiha's nose. With Urza, that little shit is unworthy of gazing at Master's unmatched bust. The Demon Queen muttered darkly, eyes glowing a brighter crimson, making the males and females around her uneasy, while Sheena chuckled sheepishly with a sweat drop, seeing her look really why scary. Urza, you know Lady Naruto won't be unfaithful like that. Sheena squeaked when the crimson gaze bore down on her for a minute before she blinked thoughtfully, turning back to the match, not seeing Sheena wipe away sweat on her forehead. Dodged a bullet. The card ninja muttered under her breath so the Demon Queen wouldn't hear her. Rookies and their senseis. This has to be a genjutsu sensei. There's no way Naruto-kun is a girl. Hinata the shy girl denied zealously, not seeing Martel walk by and give the girl a look of pity and exasperation before walking off, but Kurenai, Asuma and the other senseis did. There's something about that woman I do not like. Kurenai motioned the others to follow after the woman and followed suit. Back in the arena. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. Naruto jumped, pushed off the air with the speed of a bullet, and with a two-handed slash sliced through the chakra fireball, surprising Sasuke. He didn't dodge quickly enough. Spurt. Act. Clutching his chest over the deep, non-threatening wound, squirting out a little blood. Don't tell me you're scared after that little love tap, Sook, ha ha ha. Naruto laughed madly, blocking the furious strikes from the Uchiha, making it seem as if he was pushing her back as they raced all over the arena, swords clashing. Fireballs and bladed weapons flying everywhere, clashing, hyping the crowd up. Naruto batted away several more strikes, having a calm focus, suddenly striking under his bicep with the sheath, causing a loud crunch, making him grimace painfully, but continued attacking. But then Naruto slashed him across his chest again, adding a longer cut. How is she knowing every move I make? That power should be mine, not belonging to a whore like her. His curse mark flared instantly in response to his hate and negative thoughts, causing flame marks to spread to one half of his face, and instantly Naruto skidded back from a sudden strike, earning a raised eyebrow. Interesting, so that's what the first stage of the curse seal do. Self-taught and not half bad. Still, she locked blades with Sasuke, pushing more power into her push, and then swept out his legs, pushing him up using her superior strength, spinning around with an Ito Ryodan slash, sending him flying like a spin top, only to slam his blade into the earth, slowing himself down. Looking up, he barely managed to put up a block, only to get sent rolling across the ground with a groan of pain and agony from his bleeding wounds covering his front in a dark red. He glared when Naruto appeared with an amused smirk. Your technique lacks something, she said thoughtfully, and suddenly her aura glowed a holy white, and he felt dread when she chanted. Sacred powers, cast your purifying light on these corrupted souls. Rest in peace, sinners. Judgment. Sasuke tried to copy the technique, only to see he couldn't, and before he could interrogate Naruto on that, he was suddenly assaulted by pillars of light that seemed intent on blasting him to ashes with their holy light. His aura glowed dark purple with sparks of lightning, chanting fiercely, "Come to me." Divine thunder, indignation, A massive bolt of lightning in conjunction with the pillars of light making him use his enhanced speed to dodge the entire time till Naruto cut the power to the spell, leaving Sasuke to crash to his knees looking a bit charred and was glaring with absolute molten hot rage and hate, only to block Naruto's eternal sword, weakly trying to keep the blade from cutting into him. I see. You deny your weapon its purpose. His eyes widened as she grinned before he was smacked in the face with a hilt strike and spun around with an upward slash cutting through his left eye, making him grab his face in pain and agony, screaming out loud much to the Uchiha butt kisser's horror, and shouted threats of death, torture and all kinds of things at Naruto, who merely ignored them. Uchiha Sasuke made his choice when he signed the waiver. He had to prepare to kill or be killed. After all, it isn't Konoha's fault if you die. Her sly dark smirk caused all to freeze in realization while Anko whistled and decided to make a quick exit. But I'm feeling merciful today. If he swears to leave me alone and forfeit, I won't kill and let my eternal sword taste his blood. She stared at the shaking with hatred and rage Sasuke like he was nothing and snapped. Chidori. He flipped through several seals and gripped his arm as it crackled with purple lightning and roared with a charge, digging a trench in the ground, aiming at the walking away Naruto, who merely sighed in disappointment. Sasuke-kun stoppppp, Sakura and Kakashi's voice cried out. Fool! Naruto vanished, causing Sasuke to miss, and used that lapse of weakness to appear behind him and slashed him with a barrage of one-handed slashes, making blood fly everywhere. Sasuke swung wildly when she stopped, not seeing her somersault over him with the sword glowing red, slamming a blade first in the ground, calling out, "Devil's Hellfire." Several pillars of flames erupted around Sasuke, burning his body even more, earning a demented scream of agony, but she wasn't done. May your soul be tortured in hell, Uchiha Sasuke. Ain so faur. A light pale purple aura enveloped her hand before it erupted in a beam. Boom. Everyone tumbled around from the shockwaves, steadily trying to hold on to something. It stopped, and when everyone rushed to look down, they could only gape in horror and disbelief. She actually killed him? Sakura's voice trembled. Kakashi hung his head, seeing nothing of Sasuke's remains left, and glared furiously at Naruto, who walked away to the eastern side of the stadium and leapt up to where Urza and Shina were speaking again. Call the match, Proctor. Genma nodded grimly. Shosha. Winner by death, Naruto Mithos Yggdrasill. The crowd booed furiously except for the foreigners, who looked confused as to why they would mourn a disgusting ninja like that. It was sickening. End song. With Urza. Thank you for killing another Uchiha scum master. Naruto chuckled at Urza's big hugs and squeal. It's nothing, Urza, I would have done it anyway. Who is this? Her gaze turned to Shina, whose face lit up pink and shyly looked away. Her name is Shina Fujibayashi. She's the other girl who's interested in what Ya got packing down there, master. Urza purred lustfully, her armored hands moving from her hips down to her crotch, getting an exasperated expression from Naruto, who swatted Urza's hands, earning a pout from the scarlet red-haired woman. Naruto. Turning her head, Naruto sighed, seeing Sakura charge at her with a kunai, and merely twitched her hand, causing the pinkhead to slam into the wall harshly, getting a harsh gasp for air. Sakura. Ino shouted, aiming to charge at the dead last that killed their love. If you wish to join Uchiha Sasuke, do feel free to try and attack Naruto. Urza stood up, blade unsheathed, with a fanged smirk and eyes flashing crimson blood red. Try me. They backed off, with Ino prying Sakura from the wall barely. Naruto-kun, change back. Hinata suddenly commanded, getting an annoyed look from Naruto. Get it through your thick skull, Hinata. Naruto never existed. Naruto shouted coldly, eyes glaring at Hinata, who teared up, making Kiba growl angrily, only to feel the tip of a blade under his chin, and was faced with a pissed-off glare from Urza. One step, mutt, and I will not hesitate to lop off that hot air balloon of a head of yours in front of your comrades that aren't masters, with Tenten Higurashi, Rock Lee and Neji Hyuga and Shino Aburame being exceptions. They didn't ridicule Master even when she went out of her way to help them, so do her a favor and leave her presence at once. You are coming with me, Naruto Uzumaki. Go away, Hitaki, I have no need to exchange words with a broken doll. Naruto dismissed, only to raise an eyebrow when Kakashi pushed Urza out of the way to grab her shoulder, only for her to grab his hand and twisted sharply. Crack. Snap. Arrrghhh, Kakashi grunted, falling to his knees from Naruto's grip on his wrist, and felt fearful when her light green eyes bore down on him with disgust and contempt. Get it through your scrambled brains. I am not Naruto Uzumaki. She backhanded the copy nin, viciously dislocating his jaw, making him hold his jaw in agony a bit. You fools don't think I know your true thoughts. About how you think I am still weak and unfit to be a ninja. Well, put this in your fucking scrolls. Consider this my breaking away from the rookie 10. Now make like a fat bitch and get the fuck out of my sight before I fucking end you. She snarled venomously, getting hard looks from Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma, Sakura, Ino, Hinata, Choji and Shikamaru. This isn't over, Naruto. We will turn you back the way you are supposed to be. Kurenai growled, stalking away only to grit her teeth from the parting remark. There's the stairs. Hope none o' the windows hits you. Slap on the ass on your way out, bitch. Naruto laughed mockingly, making Kurenai vow to show her the error of her ways and obey. Naruto sighed. Man, that was good. I've been waiting to do that for years. Urza sniggered and Sheena smirked, her intrigue in Naruto growing. I hope to learn more about you, Naruto. Mithos Yggdrasill. Nice way to kill the arrogant Torag, Naruto-sama. Urza quipped with a cruel smile. Naruto's lip quirked upward into an amused one. Sheena chuckled, or more so snickered, when the ass-kissers glared or grumbled angrily. Yeah, I agree. Befitting end for a tainted child, wouldn't you say? She said, tainted child, with mocking sweetness, looking directly at the civilians and shinobi, making them flinch and look away in shame and guilt. HMPH, feel guilty all you want. All you had a hand in making my life utter hell before father and the others found me. I know you're up there watching Kami, and your fellow gods, especially you Kushina and Minato. I dare you to try and come down from that palace of yours just so I can pay you back for the hellish life I endured. She scowled darkly, showing her fangs instead of teeth. Her eyes glowed with malice within them, not noticing she was radiating K.I., causing the audience and shinobi to become nervous, near catatonic. Naruto-sama, your killing intent is causing the maggots to become whimpering children. Sheena remarked with a light smirk despite the beads of sweat from her forehead. At that, Naruto reined in her temper that she inherited from the bitch despite how she was stomping it out. Whatever, she said coldly and dismissively, returning her imperious gaze to see the fight between Temari and Shikamaru, only to raise a slight eyebrow seeing Shikamaru run like a little bitch. Naruto-sama, maybe Nara-san needs to undergo your training regimen to kick the laziness out of him. Urza suggested loudly with a thoughtful face, causing many to freeze in shock. This goddess had a method to get rid of laziness? They must know. Naruto-sama, please tell me how. Yoshino Nara appeared in a blur, bowing humbly. Naruto crossed a leg over the other in her throne-like seat, thoughtfully looking at the buxom black-haired matriarch. She knew of the Nara matriarch. She was one of the people to truly wish to help her as a child and give her a home and a family. In her mind she could see herself being a sister to Shikamaru. Yoshino-san, I will help make your son better after the Chunin exams. I admit there are more people in this village worth having as family, even if not having blood ties. You are one of the people besides many others to want to give me a home, a family, and have a chance to have a brother, mother and father. Naruto's soft angelic voice echoed through the eardrums of everyone's mind, and many who tormented her as a child tried not to cry or shed tears at the fact her voice was in no way demonic and they mistreated her so badly. Shikamaru was looking at Naruto wide-eyed, thinking one thing. And Naruto could have been my sister. Mom and Pops wanted to adopt her and she was mistreated this badly? Even by Ino and the others? Insulted and orchestrated? Shikamaru slowly narrowed his onyx black eyes, turning his head slowly to look at Ino and Asuma with growing hate. Said people flinched, looking away from that accusing gaze. Stand up, Yoshino-sama. I will not have one who cares naturally about me to kneel before me like a servant. Yoshino nodded while looking at her would-have-been daughter with a warm smile. You truly are an angel, Naruto-chan. Yoshino sat beside Urza, who gave an approving nod to the matriarch. Continue the fight, Proctor. Naruto called out with authority. Genma gulped and nodded obediently. Temari and Shikamaru faced each other with dangerous looks on both their faces, surprising Ino and Asuma. This isn't the Shikamaru we know. Both looked at Naruto with frowns, knowing they need to do something about her fierce independence soon and return things back to normal, preferably without getting killed or caught. Hey, sand girl. Shikamaru spoke up with a smirk of victory. Temari stiffened before realizing she couldn't move and looked down, only to snarl seeing her shadow binded. Temari looked at Shikamaru with fury in her eyes. That lazy bastard used that girl's proclamation to extend his shadow to mine just a second before the match restarted. She begrudgingly nodded curtly, knowing he won this one, using her distracted lapse in attention to pull the match in his corner. Don't make that face, Tamari-san, we're shinobi, we don't play fair. He grinned cheekily. Naruto snorted from her seat with Urza and Shina agreeing with that. Tamari snarled venomously, knowing he had her dead to rights. Proctor, I forfeit. She gritted out, swearing she would kill him during the invasion, only to freeze as she was leaving to the stands. Turning around slowly, she found herself frozen stiff at the cold gaze Naruto pinned her with, glinting in dark amusement. Konohagakure isn't yours to destroy, little girl. That is my privilege alone, so run along and tell Orochi-kun I wish to speak with him, otherwise I won't be responsible for turning you out like a slut from a high-class brothel. Tamari Subaku. Tamari mentally stammered in fear at the fact the blonde-haired girl could read her mind and thoughts with such ease, and bolted in terror. Ah, I just love doing that. Naruto gave an innocent angelic eye smile and a regular smile. Urza pffted shaking, trying not to laugh her ass off at the epic trolling she just witnessed. Mistress, maybe we should pay attention to the matches. Shina trailed off, only to narrow her eyes seeing a cat-masked Anbu approaching with a female figure. You. Naruto slowly turned a sideways glance to Neko, who stiffened seeing none of her sensei in those eyes. Does she hate her mother that much? Yes, I do hate Kushina Uzumaki Izuki Yugo. Naruto said with a cold venomous hiss, catching everyone's attention again. This time they were sweating and nervous when she stood up, standing face to face with the purple-haired Anbu. I despise her and the Yondaime with all of my being. They sealed the Kyuubi within me and died, leaving me to my fate of becoming a future Fusuke toy for this shithole of a village. She let out a guttural snarl, her energy bursting free once again, causing many to end up smashing face first into something or the ground itself, their hearts beating fast from fear-induced adrenaline. But the village was going to be destroyed. Neko protested, trying to make her sensei's daughter see reason. Naruto's voice turned even colder, speaking words that caused everyone to feel hurt, shocked and outraged. For all I care, this village could be melted down to molten slag strewn with dead bodies, corpses and bodily fluids, and I'd not shed a tear or bat an eyelash. Besides, I don't see why I have to listen to your hypocritical preaching of giving second chances when none except a rare select group deserve any kindness from me. So let me say it clearly and loudly for you, Neko-san. Naruto sneered darkly, and spoke with mana circulating through her vocal cords. Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki are nothing but my sperm donor and incubator. The day they chose the village over their own flesh and blood is the day they sealed their fate. Since the Sandaime wishes to speak about my so-called defiance, let's not keep him waiting. Naruto spoke with a sarcastic acid-like tone, flicking a strand of blonde golden hair out of her face boredly, smoothly standing up and stood next to Yugo. Yugo quivered, raising a hand to shakily grasping Naruto's back, only to barely hold in a moan, feeling her presence wash over her. The blonde goddess in the tight white bodysuit smirked seductively and cruelly at the change in emotions from the Neko-masked Kunoichi. Well, aren't you going to take me up to see the Hokage before my uncle the daimyo throws a fit? She smirked wider as Yugo gasped just in mid-shunshin, leaving an amused Urza, a bemused Shina, and several stunned and shocked disbelieving civilians and ninja. Era? Ichigo Dono is going to be very annoyed at that. Urza smirked mischievously. Shina coughed, hiding a chuckle, but that changed when Hinata was spotted glaring at them with jealous hate. Urza's lip curled darkly at Hinata, who shivered but stood her ground. I can't wait to watch your face when Naruto-sama breaks your little tight body before your sensei. Hinata heard the red-haired harlot's voice in her mind and paled at the threat. She sat back down facing the arena, sweating heavily. Urza chuckled in a dark demonic way, brown eyes now glowing scarlet red as her hair. Stripping those morons of their power won't be the only thing we will do to Konoha. With Ichigo Kurosaki, the new daimyo, in charge, just as stubborn as Kushina but with his head in the right place, he sees my master as his own niece and used his spies to find some rather incriminating evidence about what that old cripple and certain others did to frame Orochimaru, who was supposed to be Naruto's real godfather. With Sarutobi tried not to sweat at the neutral yet cold look Naruto gave him. So come to see if I am still that idiot mask I wore as a child? She answered with acidic amusement in her eyes. Sarutobi sweated finally as she faintly glowed from her power. An orange-haired man with spiky Dongai-styled hair smirked, wearing white zori, straw sandals with a black shiakusho with white lines, with one of the sleeves ripped, showing his arm wrapped in pitch-black chains connected to a black glove. Over that he wore crimson robes like a haori and a straw hat colored white with a red symbol for fire on the front. Ah, Naruko-chan, how's my favorite niece? Ichigo smiled widely, getting a beaming grin from the sun-golden blonde girl who hugged the fire daimyo's waist, not seeing the dinner-plate-eyed look Orochimaru under the Kage's robes had on his face. Sarutobi's mouth dropped open, releasing his pipe with silent thud. I've been amazing, Uncle Ichi. Although I guess I went a bit too easy on the Uchiha Gaki. I wanted to make him scream a bit more. She pouted, making Anko, who saw this, blush with a bit of drool. Kurenai looked angry at this and smacked her in the back of the head. Ichigo dono, how do you know Naruko? Sarutobi stated cautiously when Ichigo turned with a smirk still on his face turned feral. Ah yes, little Hiruzen, the bastard that gave Kushina Baka too much freedom. Then you and Jiraiya Teme put a seal on my niece that nearly made her vulnerable to many near-rape attempts, because every time she tried to fight back physically she'd be shocked violently with enough amps to paralyze a summon animal like Gamabunta. Ichigo sneered coldly, enjoying the look of fear on Sarutobi's pale face. Yes, and most of my pursuers were crime lords on the civilian council and whoring ringleaders that went after young females that gained their attention. Naruko sneered herself at the pathetic fool, quaking as she and her uncle aired out what happened that night. The other Kages and daimyos looked at the council members, elders and some of the shinobi council and even Sarutobi with disgust. Even Kakashi bore the brunt of it with the other Junin senseis that were in on the plan to make Naruko more loyal to Konoha. I should have known Naruko wouldn't just let things lie. Kakashi sighed in resignation and weariness at the hostile intent being directed at them. Especially one from Neji himself was looking like he was going to charge the elder shinobi for doing a plan so slandering and dishonorable to someone he respected and admitted having a slight crush on, causing Naruko to turn her eyes in his direction with a raised eyebrow. He flushed, looking away, not seeing her mischievous smile, thinking, her smile is beautiful just like an angel's. Not noticing the soft smile on Naruko's face as she watched him before nodding to herself, filing a plan away to help Neji. N. Neji isn't arrogant in this one, he is just closed off and serious. By the way, old bastard, did you know Raikage-sama, Tsuchikage-sama, Kazekage-sama and Mizukage-sama have put out a black book bounty on your student's head? Naruko smirked evilly. Sarutobi did not like the feeling he got from that evil look on her face. Are you talking about her? Naruko shook her head mockingly. Next to Hiruzen, the hidden Orochimaru blinked curiously. No, you see, while you and the retard of a council was planning ways to further sabotage and control me, I found incriminating evidence in your former rival's handwriting, with the Toad Sage's disgusting handwriting on it as well. Naruko said venomously and hatefully, clicking her fingers. A samurai approached respectfully, getting wide-eyed looks from everyone again with few exceptions, before he handed over 2 files in a black envelope. Jiraiya of the Sannin was never named my godfather, and the experimentations that Orochimaru supposedly did wasn't ever true. She handed the file to Ichigo as everyone gasped, including Anko. Sarutobi clenched his fists a bit but stayed silent. It turns out it was the fault of Jiraiya that Tsunade's lover and soon-to-be husband died in an ambush because Jiraiya supplied Iwa with the information on where Dan's squad was posted on patrol. Hear this, Konoha. The so-called famous loyal Jiraiya of the Sannin sold out his own comrade just because he wanted my godmother to himself. Naruko shouted in righteous anger as rage flooded her veins. Her voice imperiously sparked anger in all those people that liked Naruko for herself and supported her secretly, who then started crying out in roars of bloodthirsty vengeance. Execute him. Give him to I and T, he must pay. Let Naruko-sama sort him out. The cries of bloodthirst shocked Sarutobi and many others at the hostility and malice. Naruko smirking wider at him made him feel even more terrified when she turned a page in the file. Ah yes, it also says here that Jiraiya is also wanted on the accounts of... Naruko's expression tightened and darkened at the same time. Her whole face radiated pure killing intent and hate. Ichigo looked at his niece warily, knowing what was on that file, and knew Jiraiya wouldn't live any longer, not if she was still breathing. Naruko-sama, what is it? Neji called out urgently, getting wide eyes hearing his respect for the demon brat. Naruko turned cold, now glowing scarlet red eyes at Sarutobi, who closed his eyes guilty and in shame. 550 counts of extortion, blackmail, stalking, drunk on duty and brutal murder of women that he attempted to brutally rape, 655 counts of sexual harassment of the daimyo of Honey, Frost and Sea Country's daughter and wife. Conspiracy to have Naruko Mithos Yggdrasill raped as a breeding tool, poisoning my other sensei Hisana Hyuga. It was pure luck I healed her, and finally you and the rookies conspired to control every aspect of my life. You basically ruined any sort of chance for a normal childhood because of a false prophecy. By the decree of Ichigo Kurosaki, the daimyo of Hai no Kuni, the civilian council and elders are to be detained, pumped of any secrets they have before being executed, and your student will answer for trying to frame Orochi, my real godfather. Orochimaru's eyes widened with an unknown emotion. He trembled, trying not to cry. He wouldn't let himself be so emotional. Naruto, please wait, give them another chance, the village can change. Naruto snorted dismissively, clicking her fingers, a contingent of Anbu to appear behind her. Arrest them. If they resist, kill them. Naruto ordered coldly without any remorse or hesitance. Many gasped. Hinata flinched, her eyes wide with worry, thinking this is something out of a nightmare. Enko was still in shock. All this time she was never abandoned. It was all Jiraiya's fault. Jiraiya's fault. Jiraiya's fault. Jiraiya's fault. Kill. 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 Kill himmmmmmmmmmmmm. Enko's curse seal glowed dangerously, her eyes turning an ominous gold yellow, the markings spreading like flames across her skin from her rage. For Suna. One idiot cried out, pulling off his disguise, showing Asuna Junin getting incredulous looks from Orochimaru hidden under the cage robes before he stood up with Onoki. Mei shouting with Naruto and Ichigo. Konoha. Iwa. Kiri, Kumo, Oto. Fire, defend Konoha. Their commands roared. They immediately busted into action, sinking kunai, shuriken, blades, katanas and whatever weapons they could find into the invading army. Naruto, without even looking, spun around with a Lado draw, slashing through several Suna Junins coming at her with lustful looks. Thwack. Shink. Squelch. Thwack. Hawk. She stopped, turning back around, sheathing Eternal in her sheath. The frozen Junin suddenly exploded into bloody chunks falling from the sky, ignoring the odd look on Sarutobi's face and the pride on Ichigo's. She frowned darkly. Where is the toad sage he is supposed to be guarding against the summons? Orochi, it seems half of your forces defected to Suna's side. Apparently the Suna daimyo has been planning to take over Suna with an iron fist to satisfy his greed again, and Jiraiya is not even in the village. She spat angrily at the bastard's audacity. Sarutobi's face reddened in anger. Rest assured, Naruto, I will be having words with that little ingrate. Naruto grinned sardonically. About time you got your spine back, old monkey. Now I don't have to go easy on you when I kick your ass all over the fucking place for siding with Jiraiya on that false prophecy and trying to turn me into a breeding toy. Sarutobi winced but slumped, resigning himself to her punishment. Even if he's the Hokage at the moment, he knew he fucked up once for believing his rival over his student Orochimaru, but the evidence was too perfect. Root. Danzo cried out. Naruto's eyes widened when the samurai and Anbu were attacked by a swarm of Anbu. They were only slightly caught off guard but attacked back just as fierce. A few were killed by Danzo, Kaharu and Homura with sneak attacks. Naruto snarled and dashed after them with 4 figures running beside her. Kidomaru, Yukon, Sakin, Jirobo, Tayuya, back my goddaughter up and assist her in defending Konoha. Orochimaru yelled as he flipped through hand seals. Hi Orochimaru-sama. Naruto grinned, knowing these guys had a certain quality to them that made them fun to be around. Kidomaru, you're on long-range attack, get on it, Spider-Man. Kidomaru smirked, spitting out a golden liquid he formed into a bow. Give me a boost, Naruto-sama. She grinned, spinning around, palms locked together. He jumped towards her foot, meeting her palms before tossing him high up. Spider web formation. He spat a stream white silk thread that shot out fast, latching onto rails, walls and towers, keeping it taut and tightened. Kidomaru smirked as his body glowed with zigzag patterns, his skin turning red, hair turning white, and a third eye appeared on his forehead. Warbow. Cocking an arrow back, he shot with pinpoint accuracy. The projectile sped past Naruto's head, causing her hair to lift from the air pressure it excluded before piercing through several root Anbu in the way. The one Kidomaru was aiming for was Homura, piercing him through the left side of his stomach. Ah! Homura cried out, the arrow pinning him to the wall. He grabbed at it, trying to pull it out, only to shriek in pain. Kaharu growled, spotting the demon bitch approaching fast with 3 others. Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Kaharu shouted, throwing 2 kunai after forming 1 hand seal, causing the 2 to become a literal wall of flying metal. TCH. As if that'll stop us, old bitch. Auto Kekai Jutsu. Sound barrier jutsu. Tayuya sneered, sprinting. She pulled out a flute, and played an ominous yet serene note, causing translucent gray barrier to form around them. The kunai struck the barrier only to bounce off it harmlessly. Wind-style vacuum air bullets. Danzo flipped through several hand seals, taking in a deep breath, and fired a barrage of bullet-like wind projectiles like a machine gun, striking the barrier, followed by the root firing the same jutsu, causing Tayuya to play her note faster and faster to keep the barrier up. Jirobo, Saken. Yukon, support Tayuya with your taijutsu. Go all out, this isn't a game. Naruto ordered sternly, keeping her cold eyes locked onto the elders and the civilians trying to get away. Lightning. Naruto's hand crackled before several thunderbolts rained down on the root, Suna, and defected Auto forces, turning several into charred corpses, or bleeding out heavily. You will not escape. She dashed ahead, bouncing from left to right, eyes glowing with killing intent. The sight caused the root Anbu to feel fear for the first time and panic, launching fireballs, earth spears, dragons, and more weapons. Naruto sheathed Eternal again before pulling the trigger mechanism on her sheath, shooting the blade from its confinement into her hand in a slash formation, sending a flying barrage of crimson slashes that tore through the jutsus and flying weapons like knives through flesh. Ah! The roots cried out in agony or dying screams. Many lost body parts, heads, or were bisected in two before falling to pieces. Danzo and the other two watched this in horror as the Jinchuriki sliced and cut through the incoming jutsus like thin paper. She glowed with a lightning purple aura that flowed into her sword, just as 5 root jumped in her path, aiming to subdue the weapon. Jamma Shinade. Don't bother me, she said boredly. Eternal flashed with purple lightning. One slash shattered the Tontos, aiming to impale her, leaving stumps. Another shifted into a stab. Shink. Gah. A burly-looking root gagged on the blood welling in his throat from being impaled through the chest. Naruto removed it without pause, using it to deflect several kunais aimed at her vital points, jumping, spinning and twirling, with Eternal in one hand, the other behind her back. Clang. 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 Is that all you have? I am barely even trying. Naruto stated without any confidence, arrogance, or emotion, just cold truth. Danzo gritted his teeth before going for the locks on his gauntlet-covered arm, not seeing the blonde daughter of Mithos narrow her eyes and flicker out of view like a ghost. I'll disable you first, foolish old fart. Danzo's eye widened, as did others, and tried to jump forward to avoid being impaled, but Naruto's reach changed. The lightning extended fast, turning Eternal into a lightning sword spear. Shink. Curse magic. Bind and immobilize. Danzo's body seized up as a web of glowing rainbow-colored seals squirmed all over his body and even his face till he fell over unconscious. Clicking her finger, Danzo vanished in a white light. To the others' shock, Naruto held a black-colored orb with the screaming face of Danzo showing momentarily. Don't worry, you all will be pumped dry of your information on who else you have been contacting to work against the village. As for you, Koharu. Naruto smirked darkly, turning to the scared woman. I have special plans for you. You were the one who sent some of the pimps from the Haruno clan after me, no? Naruto questioned with a false innocent voice, ignoring the roaring battle's rage around them. Koharu flicked side to side, searching for a way out. I'll take your silence as yes then. You see, I hate meaningless slavery, but to me I see it as a twisted form of love and care, and I assure you. Koharu-chan. Naruto's eyes turned red, shadowing the upper part of her face with her hair. The root, Otto Nin and Suna Nin and Koharu herself froze when she chuckled darkly and menacingly, the skies themselves darkening. I will show all you women who made my life hell. My form of tender love and care. I guarantee you'll enjoy it once I use my magic to reverse the plagues of time upon your bodies. It will be quite a glorious dream you shall never wake up from. She smiled with an innocent motherly smile, her hair lifting up dangerously like snakes. A red-haired root Kunoichi dropped her blade as if in a daze, walking towards Naruto with submissive love radiating from her. Anbu, what are you doing? Koharu shouted with command in her voice, followed by 2 more women, one that had spiky black hair tied into a ponytail, another had blonde hair like a Yamanaka. They all walked to Naruto like she was their only goddess. That's it, come to me, my darlings. I won't bite. Naruto cooed as the redhead cuddled into her left side. The other 2 pressed themselves up against her front and right side. We sorry if we upset you, Naruto mama. They spoke with submissive love in their tones. Sarutobi's jaw cracked the ground in utter shock. Even Ichigo and Orochimaru looked gobsmacked. Urza was blushing and shuddering, trying not to jump Naruto in the middle of a huge battle to sat her urges. Sheena looked appalled yet aroused at the same time seeing such a theme. Naruto mama. A choked in disbelief and envy watching how the former daughter of the Red Death and Yellow Flash was stroking the hypnotized Root Anbu's cheeks like a sweet loving mother. Mithos was watching this with his sister Martel and the others with a look of disbelief on his face. Martel, what did you do to my daughter? His voice was high-pitched in utter shock and embarrassment. Martel blushed red seeing her daughter's actions. Richter and Kratos's both had blushes of pink looking elsewhere. That student of ours is one deadly seductress, I swear, Kratos. Richter gulped, getting an equal look in return. Naruto mama, can we go home? A short-haired woman with brown hair showing marks of a Kurama clan member nuzzled her back neck with slightly glazed-over eyes. Oh girls. Go run along, I'll see you later on today and we'll talk. 5 shadows split off from Naruto's own shadow, forming into perfect copies of her that held onto the group of seduced Root, Otto and Sunakunoichi and vanished by melting into the shadows slowly. Kaharu and her allies watched in ominous horror as they all looked so happy in such an embrace as they vanished from sight. Naruto turned her sights back to them before smirking, bringing the blade up facing the flat side to them. Suddenly the lightning began turn to an ominous red illuminating her face. Another opening theme, hip-hop remix, Don't Die Too Quickly. She phased out of existence, putting them all on alert. Many hidden shadow snake hands. They all looked up only to see a curse seal pissed off covered in blood, Anko summoning large black reptiles from her coat sleeves, that bit into several Root, Suna and Otto Nin. Spinning around she brought out a scroll, biting her thumb drawing blood before swiping it across it as the scroll unraveled. Poof! In her hands was a pitch-black version of the Kusanagi no Tsurugi with a purple hilt and purple diamond-encrusted guard. Anko's curse seal marked face twisted with an insane bloodthirsty grin. Remember me, bitch. You tried to pull the same failed plan with Naruto as you tried with me. Now I'm gonna make you sons of bitches pay with your fucking blood. Die. Anko howled with soul-chilling rage and hate, darting at Asuna Junin, passing her by before her head fell off, spraying a thick geyser of blood. Anko's personal kenjutsu style focused on using her running speed to make reverse-handed slashes to the throat combined with the momentum to land decapitating strikes. For the first time she was using its completed version, saving it for those she wants to really die. Zankuha. An Otto Junin cried out, firing the same air pressure waves like the genin in the Forest of Death. Not seeing Anko's snake-like smirk, out of her sleeve was a green and black glowing chain. Fly. Ouroboros. She used her free hand to spin the chain around fast like a spinning helicopter blade before launching it forward. To the Junin's surprise, it pierced all the way through the airwave before punching a hole through his skull, sending blood flying everywhere. They tried to rush Anko, only landing slight cuts on her coat as she danced around them, blade and battle chain flashing in unison. Thwack. Shink. Boom. Squelch. Thwack. Thwack. She chopped limbs and head off with the finesse and grace of a master. Her chain she wrapped around her free hand like a gauntlet armor, using it to punch holes in their chests or delivered acid-filled blows to their organs. More and more blood sprayed. She laughed in pure joy as she felt free. Damn you, little whore. Anko lazily sidestepped slashes from Kaharu, joined by Torun and Fu. They went hard at the snake mistress taijutsu and kenjutsu with their tantos with their own finesse. Oh ho! These meat sacks are a whole different kettle of fish compared to these other weaklings. Anko smirked, parrying a barrage of blows from Fu. Torun she watched out for as he darted at her back with a purple-colored fist. I think not, Baka. Naruto shouted, dropping down from the sky as if coming from rippling water, eternal raised high. Shink. Squelch. Ah. Torun's pained scream caused Kaharu and Fu to cease their attack slightly, watching with horrified eyes at the Jinchuriki severing his arm at the elbow. Bitch. I'll show you what your brain looks like before I kill you. Fu shouted, his root training forgotten with anger and rage bursting through. Naruto, without looking at him, slashed in an outward sweep, sending a blast of lightning passing Anko by harmlessly. Zap. Be silent, worm. Naruto said coldly to the now screaming root mindreader, arching his back on the ground as if in excruciating agony. Not even Danzo-sama's cruelest training sessions were this pain-inducing. Naruto touched the nape of Torun's neck, muttering the same curse magic used on Danzo before the clothed Aburame was pulled into another sphere, this time a light gray, before dropping them into a black opening appearing in a space beside her. Glancing back at the still impaled old man, her eyes flashed with a purple light briefly, suddenly pursing her lips into a disappointed frown. Anko-san, finish off Homura-san, would you? He has no information that's important besides a few ones I'd rather wash from my mind permanently. Anko saw the pointed look towards Homura and smirked darkly. Oh, it will be my pleasure, Naruko-sama. She nonchalantly skipped over to a struggling whimpering Homura. Naruko turned towards Fu, Kaharu and the rest of the forces resisting, tilting her head thoughtfully. Should I use that to immobilize the rest? No, best save that for when I need to use it. No need to tip my card too soon. Nodding to herself, Naruko countered over the remaining ones silently. Child's play. She smirked maliciously, ignoring Homura's screams as Anko tortured the life out of him. Kaharu growled at that smirk and slammed her hands on the roof tiles, cracking them. Her features suddenly softened. Before Naruko's eyes she began to de-age, shocking the golden-haired vixen, including Urza and Shina, who saw this. Even Sarutobi was shocked, seeing his female teammate look as old as she was in the Second Great Ninja War. She tore off her robes, showing she was wearing a black bodysuit with red armor with more plates built around the shoulders, loins, hips, back and chest, with a collar to it with the symbol emblazoned on the sides of the collar, and proudly on the breastplate. End song. The symbol of a Senju. Naruko surprisingly chuckled lowly before throwing her head back, laughing in utter amusement, looking at Kaharu's serious stone-faced visage. Oh my! She placed her fist under her chin, leaning to the side, eyes glinting in amusement and interest. Now I see why I felt the aura of Senjutsu and the Shodem Hokage vibrating off your soul and chakra. She smirked widely, showing her fangs. You're descended from both Toka Senju and Hashirama's lineage. The Shodem's amazing skill in all the shinobi arts, his prowess in medical ninjutsu, and finally Toka's cunning mind, beauty, and even her dangerous genjutsu skills. The old arrogant facade you wore as Kaharu Utatane was just a ruse. Am I correct? Izanami no Josei champion. Female champion of Izanami. Naruko's eyes darkened with venom. Kaharu folded her arms, before the ninja around her collapsed, screaming their lungs out. Some were clawing at their eyes, drawing their own blood. Yggdrasill-san, Izanami-sama wishes no ill will upon you or your new family. She and her sister Izanagi have been fiercely fighting Kami and the younger gods and goddesses to leave you be, as the prophecy was voided the moment you banished Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze as your parents. Kaharu spoke gently, ignoring the now brain-dead mutilated shinobi and the continuous fighting around them. I propose an alliance between us then. Naruko spoke coolly, motioning a curious bloodied Anko to her side, speaking in whispers in her ear. The snake mistress nodded and jumped off to join the defense. Terms? Kaharu stated with a hint of amusement. Naruko chuckled, knowing like her Kaharu wore multiple masks depending on the situation, quite refreshing, so to speak honestly. Me and my family are to have interference from those arrogant high mighty gods or goddesses that believe that false voided piece of crap wording of a prophecy. Second, the only god I will actually listen to is Ichigo Jiji. Third, I reserve the right to hunt down any of the paranormal faction's soldiers or pawns if they target my family. Lovers and slaves, I won't care who they are, or what bloodline they are born from. I will kill every last one of them, even if I have to mentally break them. Naruko's fangs sharpened. Kaharu shivered a bit, seeing her eyes gleam scarlet red again. Do we have an accord, Kaharu-san? Naruko stated flatly. And another thing, if I for some reason find out that one of your brethren have attempted to find a loophole in the alliance, I will rip a portal open to heaven and kill all of you without batting an eyelash nor caring of the consequences that whore Kami and her sisters she most likely fucks around with whenever she thinks nobody is looking. She sneered. Kaharu's eye twitched but gave a begrudging nod. It's a good thing Kami-sama isn't here to hear that, otherwise she'd throw a sad temper tantrum about her champion hating her and how she'd fix everything. She shook her head and bowed. The terms are agreeable, as long as you don't provoke them into attacking. Kaharu spoke sharply, getting a cold smile. As if such simple-minded monkeys needs a reason to try and subjugate or control me. You should know, after all, this village is going to suffer even more before I am even remotely satisfied, she said with acidic dark promise. Kaharu's body shivered watching the girl walk away and jump from the roof with the sound 5, ignoring her presence to join Konoha's defense. Izanagi-sama. I can feel the darkness in her heart and it's starting to spread. What can you or anyone do to defrost her heart? I missed that little girl that always had that bright smile. Kaharu sighed sadly, hating that she had to put up that arrogant human facade to not blow her cover. She steeled herself and unsheathed a crackling yellow electric blade from a sheath on her back, showing the infamous Raijin no Ken. Hopefully I haven't gotten too rusty like Urza-sensei and Izanagi-sensei said. She murmured in bemusement before rejoining the fight, this time against the invading forces. When the dust settles, it'll all come down to how far Naruto is willing to go, to keep her independence and freedom even at the cost of many lives. Slash. Thud. Is that all you fucking ants can do? I had more fun slicing that bastard Sasuke to pieces and making him explode than this shit. Ha. Naruto cackled, her once green eyes turning a familiar blood red with slitted pupils, her blade turning more and more red as she decapitated, bifurcated, dismembered every defected ninja that came at her, becoming a blur of death. She stared down evilly at two Suna Genin teams with Junin senseis. Ah. How cute little Sand Genin teams think they can take someone like me. Naruto clapped mockingly, getting snarls from the terrified Genins. The Junins frowned at the carnage and death around the Konoha Genin, and the way hatred and disdain flowed off her tongue like it was natural unnerved them. Take this. One of the Genins twitched, his hands flaring with chakra strings. Behind the blonde came a puppet crow with arms revealing blade dipped with purple liquid. Naruto raised her hand and backhanded the puppet in the chest, shattering it into kindle, much to the boy's horror and shock. Your little toy is not but a toy in my eyes, little boy, she sneered with a vicious look on her face. She's just like that bitch Red Death, one of the kunoichi screeched out upon seeing the bodies and corpses around, making Naruto pause with a very dark frown. I'm sorry, did you just compare me to that whore of a traitor? Say that again, you little cocksleeve, I fucking dare ya. She roared, glowing with a blood-red aura forming into a fox with a tail. This made everyone who knew of Jinchuriki pale and back away as the tails increased slowly to 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. 5 tails? She can control 5 of that monster's tails? Not even Kushina could do that? Ino's mother Kyoka Yamanaka shouted with disbelief. This time I'm going to rampage, kill, slaughter and eradicate all of you scum here and now, so I hope your so-called Kami answers your prayers. She vanished in a crimson blood blur, destroying the earth around her, passing by two Suna team that screamed as they slowly came apart in pieces and lit on fire. Skidding on the ground, Naruto turned and leapt on a shining Suna Anbu, who screamed as she lurched forward with her fangs ripping his throat out and smashed his head in like a rotten tomato. Oyesss. Now WHO wants to die next. Her challenge came as several barrages of kunai and shuriken came flying at her from a rooftop, showing it was Suna and Oto Anbu. She only grinned as her mouth smoked and sparked. 5-tailed state. Foxfire. A tsunami of deep orange fire roared from her maw, literally turning the hail of metal into hypermelted molten slag, and consumed the Anbu, who gave out soul-chilling screams of death. Boom. Now that's a bang, baby, ha 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 ha. Naruto laughed euphorically, only for her head to twitch from a Chunin wearing gauntlets to punch her face with a right hook and uppercut. Ha! Take that, monster! The kunoichi crowed, revealing a plain Jane girl. Everything about her was nothing unique or impressive. Naruto sniggered and gave a condescending look at the Chunin, who sweated, seeing her cheeks steam, leaving no bruises but a line of blood from her mouth which her tongue licked away. You think you know how to box, girlie? Let me show you how boxing is done the shinobi way. The girl screamed in agony when Naruto's foot slammed on her right foot, pinning it there, and choked, gagged and coughed when she was dealt a right cross hook combo to the face, then a barrage of speedbag punches to the face. Muda. 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 Her comrades watched in horror as the girl's flesh, teeth and blood flew at the insane speed punches hitting her body. Then she got a fierce left straight. Snap. They all vomited when her head snapped all the way around to the back, showing her bloody bruised face and glass over eyes before the rest of her body fell to its knees and hit the ground with a thud. Naruto moved her foot and with cold eyes crushed the corpse's skull into red paste and bone. No, Yuriko-chan, Uwhorespawn. The boyfriend of Yuriko screamed in grieving rage and charged at Naruto with a katana blazing with wind chakra. The cloaked blonde gave evil fox smirk and vanished, appearing in front of the charging ninja and thrusted a hand forward. Squelch. Oh, Kami. His friend fell on his ass, scrambling back at the sight of Naruto's arm impaling the Junin through the chest with a beating red heart leaking blood. Its owner twitched with wide eyes and vomited blood. His killer chuckled cruelly and moved her other hand in the chest cavity and moved the limbs in opposite direction. Rip. Thud. This time Konoha Nin and those who were more green vomited when she ripped the man in two despite removing his heart in a shower of blood. Oh, it's raining blood. Fabulous. She gave a toothy smile as blood rained everywhere and then eyed the heart in her hand, making many pale or grimace. Is she going to eat that? Kurenai screamed with a pale face. Many thought the same but sighed in relief when she just tossed it up, only for that to change when her leg blur soccer ball kicking the organ. Boom. The speeding organ suddenly made its home in a civilian's mouth that almost backstabbed Iruka, making him gag and fall back choking with the organ lodged in his throat cavity. Oh good God, that's cruel. Anko grimaced at the sight, not even she would do something like that. And Naruto Mithos Yggdrasill makes a goal. Naruto hip thrusted with mad laugh that sent the opposing ninjas into a blood rage before throwing everything at her from jutsus, kunai, shuriken or any other bladed weaponry. Kyuubi Twister. She curled the chakra tail around her and spun, sending out a fierce shockwave, snuffing out jutsus and projectiles knocked all over the place, making them gape in shock and terror when those scarlet eyes landed on them with a gleeful smile. Oh goody, more playmates. Her words made the OTO shinobi decide to bail out and run like hell. Naruto frowned, and before she could move the cloak vanished when a red-haired woman wearing black spiky demonic armor tapped the blonde the shoulder. Naruko-sama, that's enough. She groaned, feeling her head clear up. What the hell happened, and why do I taste blood in my mouth and flesh on my teeth? Urza grimaced, cleaning her mouth out. You bit someone's throat out, master. No more using any of my chakra till you handle using it. Naruto turns green and spit out red globs filled with flesh. Great, I got human flesh and blood in my mouth. Great Shinigami-sama, that's going to take months to rid that disgusting taste from my tongue. Urza giggled and without looking raised her spiked mace and baseball swung, sending a sneaking Madsuna Anbu into the Hokage monument with a loud splat hitting the middle of Minato's stone face. Naruto spit out a few more red globs. I agree with you on that. I'm glad I don't have a heating phase when I used that chakra. At this she and Urza shuddered, knowing someone would have gotten their cherry popped violently. I see you mongrels are determined to the fight towards the end. Very well, I'll oblige you with my revealing of what I really am. Naruto sighed calmly and raised her hands, and suddenly they all gasped as several wings on both sides suddenly flowed out with a multitude of colors. Hinata had wide eyes of shock, as did Neji himself. Beautiful. Both whispered lowly. Many walked up to see the sight of her wings enhancing her already ethereal beauty, gasped in utter awe. It's simple, fellow ninja. I am an angel. My name is Naruto Mithos Yggdrasill. And you are currently invading my current home, as much as I loathe to call it such. You will all have to go into oblivion. She closed her eyes, raising a finger that glowed slowly before an ethereal voice came from her mouth. This time, her eyes went up to the sky with a malicious glint. I hope you're watching, life goddess. You get to see your flawed creations get obliterated. So she's going to use that? Martel murmured with interest, floating next to Mithos, ignoring a toad that was watching them before it suddenly got impaled by a dagger from nowhere, and soon Sheena landed, pulling it free from the toad's corpse. So that scum was watching the battle but didn't bother to defend his own home. How disgusting. Sheena's hands were itching to try some of her new seals on the disgusting rapist Sanin. Gather the original sin. Emptiness and eternity. Scatter and crush. The light glowed more intense by the second and their eyes widened. One ninja dropped his weapons, chuckling hysterically, seeing swirling hole of black with purple swirls within gathering above them. Hee. Kuso. Many stared at their death swirling ominously above them. Two words from Naruto's mouth sealed their fates. Event Horizon. Everything exploded into a bright light, blinding all except Naruto, Urza and her family. Kami's realm. A beautiful platinum blonde-haired woman wearing a kimono with lines of gold and silver suddenly gasped. Her eyes snapped open wide, showing pupilless sky-blue orbs. How could she? So many lives snuffed out in an instant. Her shout got the attention of a red-haired woman standing beside her throne with a blonde-haired man. Kami-sama, what's wrong? The woman Kushina asked with a raised eyebrow, only getting a shaking head before waving a hand, revealing a large mirror displaying Konoha. Why is my village in ruins? A black-haired man with black eyes shouted in shock and disbelief, wearing red battle armor, a black bodysuit and sandals. I think someone casted something called Event Horizon, brother. That is quite a deadly technique. The white-haired man Tobarama getting suspicious looks from Kami, Tozi and Yami. How do you know that technique exactly, Tobirama? Kami shouted, crushing her throne's left arm, making him frown and point at the image of a blonde-haired man with green eyes, causing the goddesses to pale. Mithos Yggdrasill. Not even he could cast something with such a magnitude. Yami refuted, only for the mirror to switch to what looked like a female copy of him sporting a malicious smirk, looking directly at them. Then they saw her wings. Everyone gasped in shock and dread. A Cruxus. Someone so young has a Cruxus? A blood-red Cruxus at that. Tozi shouted in fear, remembering a green-haired woman who demolished her each time they crossed one another in a fight. A man standing at the same height as Hashirama with red samurai armor, spiky almost blue hair, a black bodysuit with gloves and sandals, smirked cruelly. And the child's name, Kami-san? He spoke up with an insane giggle he thankfully hid. Naruto Mithos. Yggdrasill, formerly Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Kami spoke numbly, still reeling from the human lives being snuffed out. Kushina and Minato had wide eyes of horror and shock, and then the mirror switched view, showing a red-haired woman standing next to a red-haired man with glasses and a green-haired woman, a black-haired girl beside an armor-wearing red-haired man with a sword at his side, then a blonde-haired man with red eyes. Wait a second. Kushina narrowed her eyes at the red-haired woman with suspicion, and it exploded into hate upon seeing the woman turn in direction of them with a smirk and scarlet-slitted eyes that flashed before locking lips with their daughter, making the Red Death shriek in horror and rage. How dare that bitch Kyuubi touch my daughter in such a way? Minato gawked in horror when Naruto flipped a bird in their direction, making a tall black-haired man wearing a blue kimono with gold dragons etched into the fabric and sleeves smirk in amusement. Hatchlings got balls on her, hee. Yami, Amaterasu and Tozi, upon seeing Naruto, had to cross their legs, hiding tinted kimonos with looks of lust. No. Kami, upon seeing their looks, shouted stubbornly, only for the goddesses to whine. But little sis, just look at that prime piece of meat down there, Yami hissed in the life goddess's ear. Tozi nodded, with Amaterasu trying to look neutral but failed, as she clearly wanted the young angel in her bed. We can't interfere anymore. Kami stammered as their lust permeated her mind and shook it away. The goddesses raised eyebrows. I believe Izanami-ka-san and Izanagi-sama told us of the deal her avatar Kaharu Senju made with Naruko-san. A white-haired buxom female with hazel eyes said with an amused smirk, seeing Yami, Tozi and Amaterasu look really pained at not being allowed to have a chance to bed Naruko. Shish. Naruko's saying something. The man known as Bahamut hissed, sounding urgent, and everyone saw her lips and the others moving. She's saying something about executing a toad sage? Tsukiyomi's eyes furrowed in confusion, making Bahamut, Susanoo and Yami's eyes flare with rage. Now I know that toad fucker. That son of a bitch is the reason why my domain is filled with female rape victims of all ages. Kill the fucker, Naruko, kill him. Everyone looked wildly afraid at the insane, bloodthirsty look from the queen of the Yomi realm. What is she talking about? Kushina shouted, making everything quiet before Yami chuckled darkly and pointed a finger at the mirror and said, Shish. It'll all be clear soon, Kushina-chan. With Naruko. Any luck? Naruko asked Shina with a stoic look. The brunette frowned, trying to sense for the toad sage. I felt him run away after you activated Event Horizon. He's heading towards Tanzaku Gai. This made the look darken on her blonde queen's face. Tsunade. He's going to try and bring back Tsunade. This is perfect. I get to kick two Sanin's asses in just one place altogether. Her fists clenched tightly, cracking her knuckles, and what made all of them flinch while Urza raised an eyebrow was Naruko crushing her pointer finger with only a thumb. Naruko had a pink blush. Era. That felt good. Mithos groaned, hearing the evil delight in his daughter's voice. Martel giggled nervously with Shina. Richter rolled his eyes beside a chuckling Kratos, while Urza chortled at Master, discovering her quirk. I can't wait to avenge all those girls that son of a bitch defiled and raped because he thought it was his right as the strongest Sanin. She gave an evil cold smile that sent shudders down even Richter's spine. With Kushina had wide horrified eyes, while Minato was pale-faced with a green face and looked about to hyperventilate. The gods themselves looked disgusted and angry. Bahamut looked ready to descend to the elemental nations and hunt the zealot toad sage down himself. Oh, I feel sick. Minato fell to his knees as a black seal on his neck glowed. This caught everyone's attention when Kushina had a silent scream of agony on her face as a seal lit up on her chest. Tozi frowned, standing up from her throne, and walked to the two shinobi, who let out screams of agony, sorrow and pain. Naruko-chan, we're so sorry. Please forgive us. Minato cried out when the seal shocked him with crimson lightning, making him convulse, while Tozi held him and Kushina down with vines, letting her inspect the seals. Tozi had a dark frown. These seals were applied with that disgusting toad-style senjutsu. Why that idiot Hagoromo thought his chakra-tainted senjutsu made him god in human form is nothing but false. Real senjutsu can only be harnessed by immersing yourself in your own body's natural energy source for a week straight, without the aid of any summoning contract or outside help. She found the toad's self-proclaimed strongest senjutsu to be offensive to her status as a goddess of nature. Her hands glowed and plunged them into the chests, not even drawing blood, gaining alarmed looks from a teal-haired petite girl standing next to a woman with black hair and dull glass-colored eyes, till they gained wide eyes when she pulled two toads that were black with green, white, yellow tribal markings. As I suspected, these toads were implanted to keep the seal forever lasting and to force obedience to the toad sage himself. Tozi growled, squeezing the toads that looked terrified at being removed from their hosts. Parasitic toads that keep senjutsu chakra permanently flowing. This is something not even the toad sage or elders could create. Tozi narrows her eyes, seeing the energy within, and hissed acidly, startling Kami and her other sisters. I smell that arrogant nosy sage hatchling's power on these parasitic toads. Bahamut's growl filled the room as he glared, smelling that manipulative sage's energy all over the amphibians who tried to break free and possess Tozi, who had vines wrap around them and squeezed them into paste-colored icky purple. Susanoo frowned deeply. It seems now we know what was causing Minato and Kushina's behavior. How did we not detect this? The god of sea and storms frowned thoughtfully before it darkened, with the others matching his face. I believe there are several other goddesses who followed that human's ideology and wished to have a chance at making Naruto their tool or slave. And I can smell the other pantheon's hands in this, especially those damned Greek gods. Yami slammed her hand down with furious eyes, with several other nods, while Fate and Destiny looked unsure and slightly grim. I think Naruko-kun is going to get a chance at killing any gods from the other pantheons. Perhaps we point her in their direction. After all, from what I feel, her power and combat experience shows she knows how to fight god beings. And kill them permanently. A woman dressed in purple, black classic samurai warlord armor with sunburned tanned skin underneath, gleaming fiery violet-colored eyes narrowed with evil sadistic glee, her voice echoed with power, knowledge and controlled bloodlust. This quieted the other goddesses, who then chuckled coldly, including their fellow male gods, at a plan Naruto would assuredly take with gusto. Kami held a hand against her mouth, muffling her evil laugh, and her blue pupilless eyes dilated with a white pupil in the center, making Tozi, Amaterasu and Yami gulp with fright. Even Susanoo and Bahamut shut up. With Naruko's eyes suddenly narrowed, feeling anger within her suddenly. It made Mithos and the others tense as they moved debris out of the way, freeing other innocents while the cages were let out of the four violet flames barrier. Many gazed around Konoha sadly. Some glared at her angrily, wanting to confront her. "You destroyed your own parents' home. How could you do that, Uzumaki?" Kurenai screamed angrily, marching up to the blonde, who ignored her so far till she snarled, grabbing the woman up by the throat, flaring ki that made Urza gasp and shiver. "Shut up. Shut the fuck up. This place was never my home. All in this cesspool wanted nothing but to rape me over and over again, because in their sick fantasies I'd be the perfect fucktoy. Always prime and ready to go all day, and I realized I was insane, psychotic, and craved blood and the desire to kill my enemies. Some part of me realized I'd never have peace because of you humans, my parents and Jiraiya and the Toad clan themselves." Her voice turned ethereal and dazed, eyes staring off into space, much to everyone's shock. Even Mithos and Richter looked shocked at her words. Martel looked at Naruko sadly with small tears. Urza bit her lip in frustration and sorrow as her master was hiding how broken she was the whole time. They became shocked when a hollow laugh tore from her throat. "I'll never been seen as my own person because you sons of bitches always want to remain in control. Control over independent people who don't bow to your ideals. I hope you guys suffer cursed lives till you die of old age. Don't forget my morals are nearly gone. While I don't condone rape, it all depends on the person's sin." Her eyes slitted with a tinge of scarlet red, staring Kurenai up and down briefly before returning to their natural green color. Kurenai paled and whimpered in her choking grip. Let me go, I'll leave you alone, Naruko-sama, please don't do this in public. Naruko's eyes narrowed before releasing her grip upon sensing two presences trying to approach from the north gate, stealthily, not taking into account one factor. Her. Stay here and keep an eye on them, Urza, Shina, Martel Okawa-sama with me. She gestured to the north gate, getting nods, and all three women phased out of existence, causing bursts of wind everywhere, stunning them all at her speed. North gate. Well shit, Itachi. I thought your village had the elite of the elite here, but it looks like Pain-chan sent a full-powered Chibaku Tensei, planetary devastation, everywhere. A woman standing at 6'5" with blue skin, beady black eyes that looked like those of a shark, spoke, giving out a loud laugh. She had GG cups that seemed to bounce with each motion or movement. She wore sandals with white leggings, dark blue shinobi pants, white arm warms that looked puffy. Over her body was a black red-lined cloak with clouds of red adorning them. Finally, the most ominous thing on her was the bandaged Zanbatsu blade sitting on her back with a skull-like hilt with a yellow tannish handle. Her name was Kisamiko Hoshigaki, wanted SS rank criminal from Kirigakure no Sato. The tailless-tailed beast, and also the strongest wielder of Samahata, Sharkskin. And also one of the deadliest members of the Akatsuki, aka the Red Dawn, as well as the partner of the infamous Itachi Uchiha. I didn't predict this. Pain-sama will be displeased. Most likely the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is perished because I can't detect anything with my Sharingan. Itachi had the slightest hint of worry at the sight of his home looking like a fallen wasteland. His worry increased as he didn't sense his brother Sasuke. The little Uke-chan is dead, Habara-chan, Naruko said, leaning on the side of the gate, arms folded with a cold smirk. Itachi and Kisamiko stiffened as her energy just registered on their senses before breaking out in sweats when they really felt it. In no way this presence. It's even more compelling than Madara-sama's. Kisamiko's eyes were twitching, feeling fear twinging in her core. Itachi was having a hard time not resisting Naruko's natural presence. I know your secret, Habara-chan. Did you really think you could hide your true gender from your real master and mistress with Jiraiya's assistance? Fufufufu. That pisses me off. Itachi paled when Naruko's face turned into a deep vulpine scowl and flared a multicolored lightning-like aura, cracking the ground and barely standing gate. Samahata started shaking and chittering wildly, shocking Kisamiko. Same Chan, you're saying her energy is too dense and never-ending to absorb? The former Kiri Kunoichi whispered in shock, with fear getting an affirmative chitter back. I would suggest stepping out of the way, Hoshigaki-san. My Masumi-chan has a little heated discussion to take care of with Habara-san. A firm yet gentle voice spoke beside her, making the shark woman nearly jump and turn to face a woman with green hair bearing that same presence like Naruko, except this felt. This woman snuck up on me so easily. Not even I'd wait a second. What did that blonde brat say about Itachi being Habara? She turned eyes back to the duo that were about to duke it out, only to gain wide eyes when Itachi had feminine features and body. So much like your mother, Hi-Heim. You disobeyed me. To never ever go to that toad sage for help. Naruko spoke softly, walking towards the Makoto look-alike with firm, angered eyes. She flinched, looking away to the side, only for soft, delicate manicured finger to grip her chin and jerk her eyes back to the blonde. Habara Uchiha, remember this clearly. I own your mind, soul, spirit, and especially your body. You, your mother, and even your best friend Sway owe me your lives. And I keep what is mine possessively. Habara moaned when Naruko's lips latched onto her collarbone as she trailed sucks and kisses up and down, making Martel and Shina turn cherry red. Kisamiko looked gobsmacked and had a small nosebleed. Naruko-sama, not in front of them, kya. Habara squealed as her real master literally molested her in front of two strange people and her fellow kunoichi in crime. She stiffened when Naruko's pupils dilated dangerously at her protest. Who said I cared for your embarrassment, Habara? It is my right to show you what I meant. Her hand reached out, squeezing one of Habara's DDD cups, firmly, getting another moan that got another notch on erotic scale. Ttanzaku guy. He's hiding out in Tanzaku guy. He gave me orders to find out the situation. She fell to her knees as the pain mixed with her mounting pleasure. Naruko paused and smirked devilishly as her eyes gained an evil, unholy glow. Martel and Shina looked terrified. Kisamiko's instincts were screaming about running for the hills like hell, but she couldn't move an inch. Habara looked frightened and worried. Naruko-sama. Naruko's face made all that saw it blanch and shiver. I just thought of a very fitting punishment for that old rapist Gama Teme. She licked her lips sadistically and let Habara go. The brunette scrambled up, bowing obediently, waiting for her mistress's orders. Habara-chan, let's go to Tanzaku Gai, my hunger is rising again. She licked her lips again briefly, inwardly salivating at what she had in store for that toad sage. I feel really hard right now. Naruto smiled widely and blasted off away from Konoha, giggling lecherously while Habara sat in her mistress's arms. Aye. Get me off this crazy trainnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnn small smirk of amusement from Habara. Tanzaku Guy, an adult male with spiky white hair tied into a ponytail, with black eyes and a horned headband with the kanji for oil, shuddered as he was looking through a telescope at a bathhouse. What was that feeling of doom just now? His eyes panned around warily, wondering why he felt the need to make a home in the center of the earth for eternity. "Hello, Kyofu-sama." A sweet acidic voice spoke behind him, sending chills of horror and dread down his spine. He slowly turned around only to come face to face with cold, malicious green eyes belonging to a familiar blonde-haired woman. Oh no. No, he stammered fearfully, watching a smirk slowly stretch across her shadowed face, and broke out into a cold sweat when she walked slowly like a sensual vixen circling prey towards him. "For so long I've wanted to meet you, my dear Kyofu-kun. Imagine my surprise when I found out about all the crimes and sick things you did to innocent girls and women who were trying to live their own lives or make money to feed their families. And then I realized you only wanted me as your personal toy since you're too afraid of Senju Tsunade to try that. But my dear delusional Gama-kun, I have a special surprise for you." Her palm turned upwards with 2 fingers. Jiraiya gasped as he slammed into a branch out of nowhere. He grunted in pain only to scream as he slammed through a wall. Then a ceiling, followed by several more walls and doors, then slammed constantly into the earth by a grinning Naruto whose fingers shot in different directions. "Telekinesis is so much fun, ain't it, Gama-kun?" Jiraiya hacked and coughed up blood looking black and blue. He was dropped unceremoniously, whimpering and crying in pain. His unswollen eyes shot open wide when a rainbow-colored seal outlined by a deep black kanji manifested on her other palm as she drew closer. It blazed green, and suddenly his wounds began being healed. However, his relief soon changed when she straddled him and both her hands this time blazed dark pink with a purple inner shell. "You put me through so much pain in a horrendous childhood, and now I'm going to have my fun with you." She licked her lips hungrily and dug her hands deep in his sides, eliciting a scream of pain that began to turn from a gruff male-sounding one to a whorish female one, much to his horror. Massive JJ cups ballooned on his chest, followed by his hips becoming more curvy. Next, Jiraiya gained a slim waist, smooth fair-skinned legs, feminine hands, arms and a soft stomach. His face lose any warts or signs of old age, looking like a female in her 20s. Her hair looked more smooth and silky despite its spiky texture. Naruto grew hard, slowly looking at the banging body of her former godfather, now godmother. She ripped open the stunned female former male's kimono top, showing her tits were restrained by a mesh shirt. Naruto sighed in elation and relief, slipping from the tight hold gripping her, and willed her clothes to zip back on her body, before picking up the 4 unconscious females and walked to the nearby hotel. "Tanzaku Guy should be a quarter of a mile up ahead. I can take my time to rest till Senju gets taken to the village." Time skip 5 hours later. "Tanzaku Guy. This wasn't supposed to be this way." Tsunade Senju grimaced, looking at Naruto, whose hair wasn't a golden sun blonde but a fluorescent red that seemed to wave around like it was alive. She wore blue pants with sandals along with a white-blue motifed coat that had a high collar covering most of her face, along with the girl's mouth, and the tails went down to her ankles. In her hand was a dripping with blood sword that looked very foreign to her, but the cold look of silent rage behind the girl's eyes made Tsunade wish she could go back in time and stop her from becoming like this. "Give up, Senju. You cannot beat me, as I am too fast for you. I am stronger than you and I know your every weakness and can break you with ease. So do us all a favor and surrender, and you'll come back to village unmarred." Her eyes narrowed, flashing scarlet, warning the slug to choose her actions carefully. Tsunade panted, holding her healing side shakily, looking around Tanzaku Guy to see shops busted up, the road cratered and cracked, and light poles sliced apart. How could you become like this? Was your life so bad you'd become a monster yourself?" Naruto just threw her head back, laughing harshly and cruelly, eyes glinting with an unholy light before grabbing the slug Sanin by her throat. Choking Tsunade was helpless as her goddaughter lifted her higher and higher, dangling in her strong grip. Creak, and Naruko-chan. Please. Tears dripped from Tsunade's eyes, making Naruko frown, twitching badly. Tears. Naruko bit her lip hearing her choke and started to go limp. Tears of your own loved ones on your hands, as you blissfully watch the life drain from their eyes. Tsunade breathed deeply again and again when Naruko dropped her, stumbling back, staring at the angel who stood with blazing eyes and clenched fists. Who are you? Who are you to provoke such emotion from me? Her glistening tears made Tsunade blink, feeling the welling sadness from the girl's being. No matter how much you deny it, you can't put away your humanity. You still want your family, Naruko-chan. Please just let your humanity back, and I'm begging of you. Snap. Their eyes widened in horror as Naruko reared her fist back that was glowing rainbow-colored fire. Her eyes darkened a deep red as if showing how much blood stained her hands. Then I must remove the one object that ties me to my humanity. She roared, shooting forward, aiming to pierce Tsunade through her heart, not seeing the small accepting smile on her face. I forgive you, Naru-chan. She spread her arms, accepting death by her goddaughter's hands. Stop. Flash. Young Naruko, stay your hatred and sadness. Don't let it control you. A delicate firm hand gripped her flaming fist, stopping it, but struggled. Naruko's eyes widened hearing that voice and spoke lowly in shock and growing anger. You. She glared up into a pair of understanding angelic blue eyes. Yes, young angel, it is me. Eyes widened hearing the name of this woman, and why did Naruko look so angry and frustrated at the sight of her? The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next part.